Hello. Why did the population expert feel like he was going crazy? This was homework on Thursday, February 15th. Determine whether or not the given numbers are possible measures for the sides of a right triangle. So this is verifying if these three numbers would create a right triangle. Circle the letters next to each correct answer. So, is it a right triangle? If so, you would circle yes, little I, capital O. If not, you would circle no, little f, capital K. Find the lowercase letter in the box at the bottom of the page and write the uppercase letter below it. So let's take a couple examples and then you can do the rest on your own. The first example, A equals 6, B equals 8, C equals 10. The main thing you need to know is the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So let's see, I'm going to type this in here. A, now it won't let me do a square. So you see this little thing right here? It's if I hit shift and 6 at the same time, it makes, this is called a caret symbol. That means that the next item, whatever it is, letter or number, is going to actually be the exponent. So it's a squared, does that make sense? Plus b, caret, that's squared, equals c squared. Okay, now I'm going to move this bad boy over here so we can keep it with us. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now let's look here. What is 6 squared? Well, I've got, where'd it go? There it is, my nifty calculator here. Oh, done, don't want that. Let's use my pointer. Okay, let's try it out. So if you could see, you guys have this on your calculator. It's like 2 buttons above the 8, if I'm correct. So I would hit, since a squared is 6, see it even tells you you got to square the a. So 6 squared, and that's 36. So let me take my little tool here, and I'm going to write, hopefully, a 36. All right. Now, b equals 8. So 8 squared. Again, that's 64. So I'm going to write 64 right there. And c squared is 10. So I am going to square my 10. 10 squared. 10 times 10. 100. Cool. So my 100 is going to go right here. Pat-ow. Alright, now, get rid of that bad boy. I want to know if I add, right? If you add the a squared and the b squared, you should get c squared. And if you don't, you circle no. If you do, that means that those three lengths, 6, 8, and 10, actually could be the lengths for a right triangle. So let's see what happens. Where did my calculator go? There she is. All right, so 36 plus 64 equals, yay, it's 100. So what do? You circle yes. All right. Now, if you want to, remember extra credit filling out the bottom. Oh, it won't let me do that. Okay. So we said yes, right? So I am now going to clear. Let's see if I remember how to clear. There we go. I'm going to clear this. And I'm going to come down here. And it was I, little I, big O. So what you do at the bottom is you see this little I, you would write a capital O right there. So the little letters tell you where to put it, and the big letters are what you actually write. And this should spell out a sentence to answer the riddle. Does that make sense? The key is, if you answer this riddle, it will tell you if you got your question right. If you wind up with a bunch of like nonsense words down here, it doesn't make sense, that means you probably messed up somewhere in your problems. It's called a self-check worksheet. That way you don't need a teacher to tell you if you got it right or wrong, you know. So we decided that triangle 1 this first one was in fact a right triangle. Let's see about triangle 2. So our lengths are A equals 10, B equals 12, and C equals 14. So you grab your calculator, and again, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So A squared, well, we already know that's 100. We did that one. So let's go ahead and write 100 in there. I think some of you may actually have this memorized. Do you have 12 squared? 12 times 12? If not, it's okay. We have our calculator. So we're going to hit 12 and then our little squared button. And we get 144. So I'm going to write that here. 144. There it is. And then 14 squared. And here's a little trick that I use to memorize. 13 squared is 169. 14 squared is 196. You just flip the numbers. However, we can always use our calculator. So 196 goes right here. Now remember, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Pythagorean theorem. Won't get tired of hearing me say that. So let's go ahead and see if A squared plus B squared does in fact give me C squared. 100 plus 144 equals, I got 244, not 196. So I'm going to take my pencil and circle no. So little t gives me a big S. So what that means, let's see, let's hide this sucker. Okay, so little t gives me big S. Now I'm going to scroll and it's going to come with me, but I think y'all can handle that. So little t gives me a big S. So I'm going to write my big little t, big S. So under my little t, I'm going to write a big S. Does that make sense? Okay, let's clear all this and go back. Now, I think these are pretty understandable, right? You square them. See if it equals that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no worries. What happens when you get to a problem like 6? Well, we know 4 squared is going to give me 16. You guys have that memorized. 9 squared is 9 times 9. That's 81. But what do I do with this guy? It's already being, it's the square root of 97. Well, remember what I told you, that the square root of something is the opposite of squaring it, right? Just like adding and subtracting are opposites, these are opposites. So if I take, I'm going to erase this, if I take this and I square it, right? So what it's saying, c squared, means we're going to take this thing right here and we're going to square it. Then that means the square root times the square root, guess what? They cancel out. So my answer would just be 97. Does that make sense? Remember when we have to solve for the missing side, to undo a square, we find the square root? Well, if you already have, like here in number 8 and in number 7, if you already have the square root of something, squaring it just cancels out that square root and you have the same number. So it just cancels it out and you're left with the same number. The number itself isn't going to change if it has a square root sign. If it doesn't have a square root sign, then obviously you go back to your calculator and you put in 13 squared and you get your answer. Decimals can work just like normal numbers. So you go to your calculator and I would put 2.7 and I would hit the squared button, 7.29. So I would come here and I would write 7. Where's my point? There it is, 29. And you can do that and see if these two numbers add up to whatever 4.5 is squared. All right, I think that's everything. Let me clear the screen and make sure there's nothing else on here that you would need. Again, square roots, squaring a square root just cancels it out. So that would be 300 for b squared, 556 for c squared. And remember, whatever you choose, the little letter tells you where to go. The big letter tells you what to write. I hope this was helpful. If you have any more questions, please ask your teacher.